The story begins in a whirlwind of activity in the office. A tall woman approaches a young man who is busy in front of his desk. The woman, Tokomori Mizuki, often entrusts Shugawa Toru with various work-related tasks, a smile always playing on her lips. Just like right now, Tokomori does not hesitate to ask Shugawa for help to review a project and even asks the man to simply print a document. Shugawa is stunned. He's familiar with the woman's behavior and often notices how office colleagues react to her. Come on, who doesn't know Tokomori? The office's most beautiful woman, with her charming figure, hard work ethic, and friendly demeanor, has become an idol. She has become an idol in this place. But little did anyone know, the woman, realizing that Tokomori was in danger and needed help, Shugawa quickly turned around and approached them. Shugawa then chased the strange man away by saying that Tokomori was his co-worker and he would escort her back home. The strange man then left in annoyance after Shugawa's arrival. Finally, Tokomori was taken home by Shugawa until he arrived in front of Tokomori's house. He was stuck in front of the door. Having difficulty entering the password, Tokomori immediately told Shugawa his house PIN code. Although he felt awkward and uncomfortable, Shugawa still decided to open Tokomori's door because the woman was really weak. After the door opened, Shugawa was surprised when he saw the room. The condition inside Tokomori's house was messy, not in accordance with Tokomori's personality that Shugawa had imagined. In fact, Shugawa did not see any bed in the house. Tokomori replied by saying that she did not have a bed or a place to sleep. She slept on the floor or any place and said that buying furniture was a very troublesome thing to do. Tokomori then apologized and felt that she was a careless woman. However, Shugawa tried to cheer her up by complimenting her, saying that she always gave her best at her workplace. Hearing that, Tokomori smiled and said that she was relieved and felt excited to clean up her house. But just as she stood up, Tokomori immediately fell to the floor. Seeing that, Shugawa quickly helped Tokomori and covered her with his jacket and tried to help her clean the room. Tokomori, who was still lying on the floor, asked about where Shugawa lived. Shugawa replied that he lived in a capsule hotel because his apartment had been demolished. Hearing this, Tokomori then offered Shugawa to live with her by paying half of the rent. Shugawa was shocked to hear the girl offered to live together, his face blushing. Shugawa quickly refused, saying he couldn't stay because he was a man after all. But then Shugawa felt uneasy when he saw Tokomori's gloomy expression. Finally, Shugawa accepted the offer awkwardly, saying he will be in her care just for a while, and that was how Shugawa's life as a freeloader began. At the office, while Tokomori was having lunch, she became the center of attention. The co-worker imagines Tokomori as an ideal woman. Even if she eats, she still looks so elegant. They think that Tokimura is a typical woman who will cook handmade food for dinner when they get home. However, for Shugawa, it is impossible because he is the only one who knows how bad Tokomori is. Since they live together, Tokomori has been very bad at doing housework, including cooking, but she tried her best to do it herself. However, they only eat a cup of ramen in the end. But it doesn't matter. For Shugawa, being able to see the charming sight of Tokomori wearing an apron is a bonus for him. He thinks the other coworker must be jealous if they know. Shugawa is still happy because the woman is always persistent and tries her best in everything. One morning, Tokomori approached Shugawa, who was cooking omurice for their breakfast. Their eyes met, making Shugawa blushing. She wanted to help. Tokomori enthusiastically tried to open a new bottle of ketchup, but didn't have time to give a warning about the new bottle. Think that she might want to write something on the omurice. The ketchup spilled and dirtied her clothes. Shugawa was worried when he realized there was a splash of sauce on his face. Tokomori quickly offered to wash her clothes. Tokomori casually nodded and quickly took off her clothes that were covered in sauce in front of Shugawa. Shugawa was shocked and panicked to see the scene in front of him. He immediately turned his back on Tokomori after she lent her clothes. Thinking about how Tokomori acted without thinking, Shugawa then got up to wash the clothes. However, Tokomori followed him and said sorry for bothering Shugawa. Shugawa, with a big smile, said proudly that Tokomori always did her best, so she was allowed to act like this. Tokomori felt flattered by his words. After finishing, Shugawa found Tokomori, who was already asleep on the sofa. He then covered Tokomori with the blanket on her. He said she might get cold. A moment later, Tokomori grabbed Shugawa's hand and sucked his thumb, as if he was dreaming of eating omurice. Without thinking, the nervous Shugawa woke Tokomori up to eat together immediately. Enjoying the omurice, which was already cold but strangely felt hot to him. The next day at the office, Tokomori was busy with her phone. Some coworkers praised Tokamori, who was very disciplined at work. Not only working, but Tokamori's body proportions were equivalent to a model. They thought that Tokamori doing exercise after work. Shigawa confirmed it. He also thought that Tokamori had a beautiful body, even though he had never seen Tokamori do any exercise at all. When at home Tokamori was sleeping on the sofa, Shigawa asked if he could wash some of Tokamori's clothes. But when he saw the laundry basket, Shigawa was shocked. He saw some of Tokamori's underwear. Shigawa blushed when he imagined Tokamori wearing the underwear. He was confused about whether to wash her underwear or not. Shigawa decided to wash it because he didn't want to cause trouble for Tokamori. He then searched the internet on how to wash a bra. He didn't want to make a mistake while washing it. After he got the information, he started washing it in the sink using his hands. While washing, Tokamori suddenly came into the bathroom, making Shigawa shocked. Tokamori apologized for collecting all his clothes. His gaze fell on Shigawa's sleeve, which looked like it was going to get wet. Tokamori rolled up Shigawa's sleeves and hugged him from behind, which made Shigawa blush even more. While fixing Shigawa's sleeve, Tokamori saw that the laundry Shigawa was washing was her underwear, and she felt embarrassed. Tokamori immediately pushed Shigawa out of the bathroom by saying she would wash it herself. Even after being kicked out by Tokamori, Shigawa is still thinking about how big her chest is while she tries to fix his sleeve. He feels that living together with Tokamori makes his worldly desires never disappear. The next day, during a break at the office, Tokamori was invited by her coworkers to eat together. Tokamori suggested eating in front of the station, mentioning a stylish place to eat. The conversation was overheard by other coworkers who said that Tokamori knew everything, and they were curious about Tokamori's hobby because Tokamori seemed to have good taste. Hearing that, Shigawa was also curious about Tokamori's hobby. During their stay together, Shigawa did not know what Tokamori's hobby was. While thinking, his coworkers handed him a cassette. Shigawa was very enthusiastic because his coworkers kindly lent him a cassette of the latest film from director Ayasama, Shigawa's favorite film. Actually, Shigawa had watched the film on the first day of its premiere in theaters, but it felt like Shigawa always wanted to watch it over and over again because it was a masterpiece that made him cry. After arriving home, Shigawa played the movie. Suddenly, Tokamori appeared and approached Shigawa. Apparently, Tokamori was curious whether Shigawa liked movies. Shigawa nodded and explained that this was an anime movie Shigawa. He then asked if Tokamori also watched movies. Tokamori said she wanted to watch it, but lately she didn't have much time to spend. Shigawa was too confused to respond to Tokamori's statement and offered to watch it together instead. Unexpectedly, Tokamori's eyes sparkled. She was happy to hear Shigawa's offer. She immediately ran to the kitchen to get some drinks. Shigawa saw it felt strange because Tokamori rarely had energy at home, but he was happy to see Tokamori enthusiastic. Then now sitting by his side, too close, makes him feel like having a date to watch a movie together with Tokamori. Shigawa unfocused while watching the movie. He felt too aware of Tokamori's presence, thinking that the room was darker than usual. The movie had only been playing for a while. Tokamori looked sleepy and had leaned his head on Shigawa's shoulder several times. Tokamori said she was tired of keeping his body position upright while watching until the movie ended. She felt burdened and gloomy. He wanted to make Tokamori comfortable. Shigawa invited Tokamori to sit as comfortably as possible. Unexpectedly, Tokamori immediately put his head on Shigawa's laps, lying down as comfortably as possible. The girl finally fell asleep, while Shigawa couldn't focus on his favorite movie in the midst of a thrilling situation like this. One day, junior employee Nishi Yukako invited Tokamori to have dinner together on Friday, but Tokamori politely refused. Seemed suspicious. Nishi said loudly, suspecting that Tokamori had an appointment to meet her boyfriend. Her voice makes the office people who heard the conversation immediately assume that it was very clear that Tokamori must have a boyfriend. Tokamori just smiled and denied, saying she was just going home. While saying that, Tokamori's face looked brighter than usual, making his coworkers not believe her and still think it was because of the power of love. In fact, it was because he had started to sleep soundly in a decent bed. Of course, on Shigawa's advice, suddenly Tokamori approached Shigawa and gave him a sticky note. Tokamori forgot to put his car keys at that time, so she decided to ask Shigawa to go home with him. Shigawa asked the girl to wait for him at a station after work by typing it on the computer. Tokamori understood and gave a signal with his finger to sign OK. After Tokamori left, Shigawa then rushed to finish his work as quickly as he could. When he finished work, Shigawa headed to the station. He thought that the station looked like a place to meet for a date. When he arrived at the station, Shugoa saw Tokamori, who had been waiting for him until she fell asleep. Shugoa was worried and asked if Tokamori was okay. He then apologized for making Tokamori wait. They walked together until they reached a flight of stairs. Tokamori, who was walking half asleep, lost his balance and almost slipped. Shugoa immediately held her body until their eyes finally met. Shugoa was relieved when he was able to hold Tokamori when he fell and asked if he was okay. Shugoa felt Tokamori's heartbeat because they were too close, which made Shugoa flutter. He came back to his senses when Tokamori said that she injured her ankle. Tokamori apologized for always causing trouble for Shugoa. Shugoa always assured Tokamori that someone would do their best if there was someone who always supported her, and Shugoa was that person. Tokamori, who heard it, was stunned. Tokamori, who had injured his ankle due to a sprain on the stairs earlier, was immediately carried by Shugoa on his back. Tokamori nodded and followed his advice and asked if she was heavy. Shugoa immediately denied that Tokamori was not heavy at all, but the problem was that Shugoa's chest made him too focused on his back. Tokamori immediately continued sleeping while he was carried by Shugoa. Suddenly, Shugoa was surprised when someone called him from a distance saying that Shugoa might have dropped his station card. When they turned around, they looked at each other, realizing something. They were both shocked. The woman recognized Shugoa and asked why he was with Tokamori. The woman was Nishi Yukako from their workplace. They passed by Nishi. Nishi was shocked when he saw Shugoa carrying Tokamori. She suspected that something happened between Shugoa and Tokamori. Before she finished her sentence, Shugoa immediately took the station card and ran away while still carrying Tokamori on his back, leaving Nishi staring at them in confusion. After arriving home, Shugoa felt exhausted and fell on the floor. Seeing that, Tokamori apologized and held her heavy body, but Shugoa still denied, saying that he did what he wanted. Putting that aside, Shugoa was more worried about Nishi. Shugoa's kuhai told people in the office and spread rumors that could damage Tokamori's image. They weren't dating, but they truly lived together, so Nishi must have been suspicious. While thinking, Tokamori wiped Shugoa's sweat with a towel, asking if Shugoa was okay. Shugoa, who came to his senses, immediately took the towel and sat up straight. His eyes fell on Tokamori's ankle. He then worried and said that it should be immediately compressed with cold water. Tokamori didn't answer. Instead, she asked if Shugoa was worried about what happened today. Thinking that Tokamori was worried about him. Worried, Shugoa said honestly that maybe he was overthinking the incident earlier. He guessed that people at work might misunderstand their relationship. Although some rumors will arise about Tokamori, Shugoa will firmly clarify everything. He believes that Tokamori is a good person and has even given him a room to stay in. Jokingly, Tokamori invites Shugoa for a real date. Hearing this, Shugoa feels nervous and says they can't date and haven't reached that point. But when Shugoa explains, Tokamori immediately falls asleep again. His energy is gone. Shugoa is very surprised to hear Tokamori's invitation, but the man chooses not to think too much about it, even though his heart is pounding. The next day at the office, Shugoa approaches Tokamori, worriedly asking if Tokamori's ankle is okay. Seeing this, Shugoa feels that there has been no change in the office after yesterday's incident. Nishi then greets Shugoa, but fortunately, it's not like what Shugoa feared. Nishi only thinks that Shugoa is just one of the men who idolizes Tokamori, who is willing to take his beloved girl home for free. Shugoa is relieved, at least their secret has not been found out for now. In the office, they usually do regular office organization and cleaning. Co-worker named Nishi feels very difficult about this habit. She complained that she can't do it anymore. Unexpectedly, with full enthusiasm, Tokamori encourages Nishi that she can do it just a little bit more. Nishi is very impressed with Tokamori, who looks so dedicated while working, so Nishi is also excited to start cleaning the office again. Other coworkers who see their conversation are also amazed and praise Tokamori that he can do anything. But the next day, when the holiday had arrived, it was already 11:40, but Tokamori hadn't woken up from her sleep. When her alarm rang, the girl immediately woke up in surprise and felt guilty, apologizing to Shugoa because she had an appointment to clean the house with Shugoa, but she was late. Shugoa didn't mind it, saying that Tokamori didn't need to rush. The two of them finally shared the tasks, Shugoa mopping the entire floor and Tokamori cleaning the bathroom. Hesitantly, Shugoa asked if Tokamori was able to clean the bathroom. Tokamori assured Shugoa that she could do it since they both were using it. After saying that, Tokamori went to the bathroom while Shugoa cleaned the floor in the living room. A few moments later, Shugawa heard Tokamori's scream from the bathroom. He rushed to Tokamori to check on the girl's condition in case she needed help. When he opened the bathroom door, Shugawa saw directly the beautiful view of Tokamori's body, which was getting clearer because her clothes were wet. It turned out Tokamori forgot to turn off the shower, but again, Shugawa didn't mind it. The problem now is, Tokamori really makes Shugawa's mind unfocused. The man immediately turned his face away and closed the bathroom door, trying to keep a clear mind. Finally, after 30 minutes of cleaning, Tokamori finished cleaning the bathroom and she was exhausted. Shugawa appreciated Tokamori by saying thank you even though Tokamori was tired, but she was still able to finish it. Tokamori returned Shugawa's appreciation with a smile and tried to wipe the sweat with a towel that made Shugawa's heart beat. Tokamori prepared to rest, while Shugawa continued cleaning. But when he turned around and continued his cleaning activities, he saw many footprints from Tokamori in the lobby. He cleaned the entire room again, even though Shugawa was happy to spend time cleaning the house together with Tokamori. The next day, on another day off, Shugawa received a new package. When Shugawa was about to give the package, he changed his mind when he saw Tokamori sleeping on the sofa. This was the first time he saw Tokamori relaxing like that, so he let Tokamori continue sleeping. When Shugawa decided to leave the package on the table, Tokamori woke up staggeringly saying he wanted to open the package. Shugawa helpfully opened the package in a hurry and found a puzzle inside. Tokamori was happy that the puzzle she ordered had arrived. Shugawa was surprised when he saw the white puzzle and it looked difficult to play but looked interesting. Tokamori kindly offered to play together. The two of them played puzzles together. Tokamori was so serious when putting together the puzzle, wearing glasses, the girl looked even more charming in Shugawa's eyes. Tokamori said that the puzzle was a race against time. They had to collect 180 pieces in 5 hours. Without further ado, Mori immediately started putting together the puzzle with enthusiasm. At first, Shugawa thought that they were more like a couple than coworkers, but it turned out to be wrong. With this, they were more like work life. Seeing how enthusiastic Tokamori was, he liked to start working on his part. An hour later, Shugawa enthusiastically showed her work by combining a little puzzle in her hand to Tokamori. How surprised Shugawa was when he saw Tokamori's work, which had almost finished half of the puzzle. Tokamori was so serious she didn't even realize Shugawa was calling him. Tokamori apologized because even though Shugawa helped her, she didn't pay attention to Shugawa, which made her think she might feel bad. Shugawa was stunned by Tokamori's words. He then shook his head and said it was great that Tokamori was so serious about something he liked, and he would also do the best he could. In the end, they managed to put the puzzle together in a few hours. Tokamori was very happy that Shugawa helped her. She reflexively hugged Shugawa without warning and said that she was so sleepy that she started to fall asleep while still hugging Shugawa. Shugawa, who was embarrassed, tried to take a glass of coffee to drink, but he actually bumped the glass until the coffee spilled on the puzzle that Tokamori had put together. However, Tokamori was not angry. She patted Shugawa's head with a smile. She was happy because Shugawa was so sincere in helping her. Tokamori comforted him and said that another time they could put the puzzle back together. They display the puzzle arrangement on the wall with spilled coffee forming the image of a cat in the middle. Seems so cute but makes Shugawa feel guilty. The next day at the office, the atmosphere was hectic as Company A demanded immediate delivery of the data, despite the unfinished revisions. Seeing this, Tokamori raised her hand, offering to help. Always a hard worker and reliable colleague, Tokamori's offer was no surprise to Shugawa. However, he couldn't help but worry that she might overwork herself. When Shugawa got home, he was worried to see it was already 10 p.m. It was too late for work. Suddenly, he heard someone trying to open the door. Shugawa rushed to the entrance and greeted Tokamori. However, he was surprised to find her asleep on the floor, exhausted. He carried her to the bed and laid her down. Leaving to get her a change of clothes, he returned to find her struggling to take off her skirt. She was too tired to do it herself. Shugawa was startled to see her skirt halfway down her legs. Tokamori then pleaded with Shugawa to help her change clothes. With a pounding heart, Shugawa reluctantly complied, helping her change her clothes one piece at a time. As she tried to get up, she accidentally pulled Shugawa's arm, causing him to lose balance and fall on top of her. Their eyes met, and a moment of awkward silence passed between them. The close proximity and the intensity of the moment made Tokamori blush. Later that night, Tokamori apologized for pulling him down. She wondered aloud why he was so kind to her. Shugoa, a bit embarrassed, explained that he had lost his father to illness and his mother had overworked herself. These experiences had taught him that no one could do everything alone and that helping others was important. He assured her that he was happy to help Shugoa realize that he talked too much, making Tokomori can't sleep and disturbing her rest time. He then apologized. Tokomori smiled gratefully, expressing her appreciation for Shugoa's kindness. Feeling a warmth he hadn't expected, Shugoa smiled back, a bit flustered by her words. As he was about to leave, he heard Tokomori mumbling in her sleep. She liked everything about Shugoa. The words hung in the air, making his heart race. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was his younger brother, Akaru, who sounded excited about Shugoa's help. However, Akaru then dropped a bombshell. He was coming to stay at Shugoa's place. Panic set in. How would he explain his living situation to his younger brother? The thought of Akaru discovering his freeloading arrangement with Tokomori filled him with dread. As Akaru made his way to Shugoa's place by bus, Shugoa's anxiety grew. He knew he had to figure out a way to break the news to his brother without causing too much chaos. The next day, Akaru arrived in Tokyo, his eyes sparkling as he gazed around the trend-setting city. Suddenly, someone alerted Akaru that he'd dropped his wallet. To his surprise, the helpful girl turned out to be Tokomori, a stunning beauty. Curious about his brother Shugoa's love life, Akaru wondered if he had a girlfriend yet. As he pondered, Akaru witnessed a woman arguing with a man, a scene reminiscent of a dramatic altercation. A frightened Akaru quickly contacted Shugoa, urging him to pick him up. Meanwhile, Shugoa was preparing to pick up Akaru. Before leaving, he bid farewell to Tokomori, but she didn't respond, leading him to believe she'd left early that morning. At their appointed cafe, Akaru greeted his confused brother, who was looking for him. Shugoa was startled by Akaru's new hair color, a testament to his impulsive nature. To change the subject, Akaru inquired about his brother's new apartment. After their chat, Akaru was shocked to learn that his brother was living with a woman. Shugoa hushed his loud brother, explaining an urgent situation and insisting that Akaru go to the booked hotel. Refusing to stay in a hotel, Akaru insisted on meeting the woman living with his brother. Panicking, Shugoa tried to reason with him, but Akaru's pitiful pleas were hard to resist. He also wanted to ensure the woman wasn't a bad influence on his brother. Reluctantly, Shugoa agreed and took Akaru to Tokomori's place. Asking Akaru to wait outside, Shugoa entered the house. He was greeted by the sight of Tokomori, a smiling figure in an apron. Even Shugoa was surprised by the warm meal on the table, as he hadn't expected Tokomori to be such a skilled cook. Seeing the food served so deliciously, Shugoa's stomach growled, hearing that Tokomori took the initiative to feed Shugoa. After receiving a spoonful from Tokomori, he then asked if the cooking was delicious. With tears of joy, Shugoa said that it was perfect and Tokomori was also happy with Shugoa's praise. Tokomori took the initiative to clean the dishes. Shugoa wanted to help but was seriously rejected by Tokomori. He said he should be able to do it himself. Suddenly, Akaru came in and interrupted the conversation. Shugoa panicked and said that Akaru should still be waiting outside. Akaru ignored his brother and instead thanked the woman in the house who had taken care of his brother. But before he finished his sentence, Akaru was shocked when he saw Tokomori. He realized that Tokomori was the same woman who helped him on the street. But Akaru remembered that he saw the woman arguing with a man, who was definitely not Shugoa. Akaru began to think that this woman already had a boyfriend, but still let his brother live with her. Akaru skeptically asked Tokomori if she was the same woman he met at the cafe earlier. Seeing this, Shugoa apologized to Tokomori because Akaru had been rude to ask him personal things. But Akaru didn't care. He explained that his first lover cheated on him. He also said that the woman was a good actress plus her brother was good looking. Akaru arrogantly headed to the bedroom, said that he would stay today without knowing that the bedroom belonged to Tokomori. Shugoa felt bad for Tokomori, but Tokomori reassured Shugoa that it was okay. When it was time to eat, the atmosphere became awkward. Shugoa didn't understand what Akaru was thinking, but he was curious about something that might have happened to Tokomori. He really didn't know anything about him. After finishing eating together, Tokomori kindly let the siblings sleep in Tokomori's bed, the only bed in the house. Tokomori was willing to give in by sleeping outside as he usually did. Even though he felt bad, Shugoa only obeyed because he wanted his younger brother to feel comfortable. At least for tonight. In the middle of the night, Tokomori approached Shugoa, who was sleeping, and sat on the edge of the bed, approaching Shugoa's ear, who was awake because he realized the girl's presence. Tokamori still thinking about what Akaru said, Shugawa apologized once again for his brother's behavior. Tokamori shook her head. She thought that Shugawa might be disappointed, so she wanted to explain what happened. But Shugawa said that Tokamori didn't need to explain. He understood that Tokamori might have something of her own, and also since they lived together, Shugawa could see how Tokamori always did her best. Hearing those words, Tokamori was stunned and touched. She whispered in Shugawa's ear and thanked him because all this time Shugawa had always entertained him and made Tokamori feel valuable. But unfortunately, Akaru woke up and immediately caught them both, labeling the woman something bad. Akaru thought that Tokamori was just an evil woman who was after a lot of men's money and took advantage of it. Akaru, who didn't want his brother to be taken advantage of, finally immediately pulled Shugawa to quickly leave and get out of Tokamori's house. Shugawa, who was still confused, couldn't do much. He just followed his brother, leaving Tokamori, who watched them both leave sadly. Akaru really asked Shugawa to leave Tokamori's house, and they both stayed temporarily at a hotel. Shugawa and Akaru parted ways. Shugawa said he would go home and finish the problem at the office. Meanwhile, at the office, Tokamori looked gloomy. She didn't see Shugawa. Tokamori continued to work as usual, finishing the work quickly, so she was praised by his coworkers. However, when checked by Nishi and other coworkers, there was a typo in the document. It wasn't a fatal mistake, but it was rarely done by Tokamori. Tokamori sat in the hallway thinking about what happened yesterday when Akaru took Shugawa out of his house. While thinking about it, Tokamori's cell phone suddenly rang. She hoped that it was Shugawa, but it wasn't. Tokamori looked surprised to see the contents of the message. Elsewhere, Shugawa was seen walking in a crowd while it was raining heavily. Shugawa accidentally saw Tokamori on the street and walking in the opposite direction from his house. Shugawa, who was confused and curious, decided to follow Tokamori secretly. It turned out that Tokamori was meeting a man. The man was Haruto, the man who had a fight with Tokamori at the cafe yesterday. Haruto asked if Tokamori was still angry because he left him. But Haruto didn't seem to feel guilty at all. He told Tokamori to come back to him. Tokamori felt sorry and bowed to apologize to Haruto that their relationship could not work anymore. Tokamori understood that their relationship was only a few weeks, but Tokamori could not be the ideal woman that Haruto wanted. Tokamori always remembered Haruto's words when Haruto saw Tokamori tired after work and lying on the sofa but food was not yet available. Naruto thought that Tokamori was just being lazy. He added that Tokamori was a woman who should be able to cook, but Tokamori couldn't. The man demanded and insulted Tokamori, who was not good at doing women's work, and only depended on others, making Tokamori fail as a woman. At that time, Tokamori felt hurt and cried because of Haruto's words to her. That day, Tokamori couldn't stand it anymore. She wanted to end her relationship with Haruto. Haruto, who couldn't accept it, tried to persuade the girl to stay with him. However, Tokamori's decision was final. The girl then wanted to delete Haruto's number in front of him directly. But Haruto, who was starting to get emotional, prevented her by holding her hand roughly, so roughly that Tokamori felt pain. Unexpectedly, Shugawa appeared and immediately protected the girl in his arms. Haruto was surprised to see Shugawa. Shugawa immediately defended Tokamori and said that the girl was his office friend. Haruto had initially belittled Shugawa as a stranger who interfered too much in other people's affairs, but Shugawa immediately admitted that he was a man who lived with Tokamori for emergency reasons. He felt the need to defend Tokamori from a rude man like Haruto. Haruto, with a scornful look, said that he used to date Tokamori. Finally, Shugawa found out that someone Tokamori met was her ex-boyfriend. Haruto continued his words by insulting Tokamori in front of Shugawa, badmouthing the girl as a beautiful girl who was careless and very bad as a woman. Shugawa immediately interrupted him by saying that Tokamori was an extraordinary girl, a hard worker, and had a very sweet side to Shugawa, a side that Haruto didn't realize as his former lover. Shugawa also added that it was Haruto's fault for letting someone do everything by themselves, and questioned why Tokamori had to do all that. Not accepting Shugawa's accusations, an annoyed Haruto then pushed Shugawa until he fell to the ground and then left them both. Tokamori immediately helped Shugawa, who was soaked from puddles and rain. Tokamori was very happy and grateful for Shugawa's arrival, who helped him from Haruto. The girl quickly helped Shugawa stand up. They were both soaked by the rain. Shugawa then put his coat on Tokamori, protecting the girl from the cold and clothes that looked transparent from the water. For the umpteenth time, Tokamori was very touched by Sugawa's attention to her. She shed tears of happiness. Seeing that, Sugawa tried to calm him down by saying not to care about Naruto's words. They both decided to go home together, returning to Tokamori's house holding hands. The next day, Sugawa felt he had the flu because of yesterday's incident. Sugawa, who was on his way home from buying spices, suddenly met Haruto to meet Sugawa. They finally sat in the park,